Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. This is your host Ariana Lane here, and I'm really excited to be back here, guys. I know I have a habit of appearing, dropping in a video, and then completely disappearing, and then no one ever sees me again for weeks or months, but but we're here, guys. I did change my channel name. It went from In My Lane podcast to Ari Breaks Chains. If I'm being completely honest, I don't know what I'm doing, but until I figure out my shenanigans, I'm just gonna keep the show going. And it was really in my heart today to talk about the topic of forgiveness. And part of what inspired that was Erika Kirk, and when she publicly forgave her husband's assassin in front of the entire nation. Technically, the entire world, because everybody was on that stream. But it was so spiritually and emotionally touching because we witnessed firsthand what obedience actually looks like. She demonstrated this courageous form of obedience, and it's almost like when we witnessed her doing that, it kind of just cut through what we're used to seeing every day. We're so used to seeing division every day, fighting, eye for eye, tooth for tooth type of thing. And then it's like she just completely cut through all that, and it kind of just like opened up her eyes, like, oh shoot, there's like a different way to do things. It was almost like she was holding up a mirror for us to ask ourselves, who have I not forgiven? Who do I still hold bitterness and strife against? And it just, I know I'm not the only one who felt this, but it did feel like an invitation. And I think so far, we've been experiencing two kinds of invitations. One was from Charlie Kirk when he passed away. Well, when he was assassinated, let's just call it what it was. He was assassinated. And through his death, God was calling us like, hey, come follow me. I've mentioned this before, but I strongly believe that God's hand is over this nation. I do believe he spared the life of Donald Trump for such a time as this. And I do believe that Charlie's death is being used as a form of revival for this nation. So that was the first invitation through Charlie Kirk from God. It's just like, hey, come to me, come to my church, come feed on my word. And then the second invitation we received was from Erika, which was an invitation to forgive those that we hold bitterness against. And then it hit me that forgiveness isn't just an act of godly obedience, but it's also our civic duty to do so, because forgiveness is a national healing agent. Forgiveness borders on the miraculous. It's not natural. It's from the supernatural. Forgiveness is a divine gift. Forgiveness, therefore, has the power to transform. It has the power to break strongholds. It has the power to create revival. So I really want to point out this thing, that forgiveness is a civic duty. If you're questioning yourself, how can I serve America? How can I heal our country? There's all kinds of things you can do, right? You can join the army. You can join, I don't know, the National Guard. You can do the Marine. Like, there's all these other things you can do, but we never ask ourselves, what can we do spiritually to heal this country? And I think forgiveness is the second thing that God is asking us to do. And to better understand why forgiveness is a national healing agent, we have to first establish the following premise. What you do in private actually matters. And I know we hear this talking point a lot from libertarians. Oh, why does it matter what I do in the privacy of my own, they'll say, I don't know, let's say, like, if they're trying to defend porn. What does it matter what I do in the privacy of my own bedroom? Like, how is this your problem? You know what I mean? But it's like, what you do in your private life manifests into the public square. It seeps into the fabric of society. Your spirit will manifest what's going on inwardly into your flesh and into the collective. And this ultimately shapes the character of our nation. Here's the thing. When we are holding on to unforgiveness, we are held bondage by bitterness, resentment, anger, slander, torment, and they manifest in the public square. And we know this because we can examine the fruit of these spirits and see how they play out in the physical realm, right? So if we take a look at what's happening in this country, we see division, polarization, mischaracterization, violence, slander, accusation. And it gets to the point where there's no room for conversation or dialogue. It has led to murder. I mean, we saw the public execution of Charlie Kirk. And that's because this nation has deep roots of unforgiveness. Our country continues to divide. If you take a look at the sexes, right? Men and women, there's like a gender war between the two where they're constantly blaming each other for things. Where does that come from? It comes from unforgiveness. It comes from bitterness. It comes from strife. And that needs to be addressed from internally up into the outwardly, because this is the only way we're going to break these strongholds. If you want to fix America, you want to make America great again, you have to start by forgiving. Just too often, I just see men and women bashing each other, blacks and whites bashing each other. People are so quick to cut each other off for just like the pettiest things. People are just too prideful to ever apologize about anything, even if it's their fault. I see unforgiveness play out in everyday interactions and even within myself. That's something that I had to reflect on, which I'll get to later. But here's the thing, guys. When we cannot forgive, we are literally putting a barrier between us and God's desire to restore our nation. We cannot be restored as a nation if we cannot forgive, because the health of a nation mirrors the hearts and the spirits of its people. You know, we constantly hear this talk, diversity is our greatest strength, diversity is our greatest strength. I'm so sick and tired of that narrative. Like, can we just change it up? Can we just build America from the ground up again? Because I don't want diversity to be our greatest strength. I want to be able to say, you know what? America's greatest strength is our ability to forgive. I want to be able to say that America's greatest strength is that its people walk in God's image. But let's be real here, guys. Forgiveness is really hard. And it's hard because it's a spiritual concept. Okay, it's not of human origin. That's why it's hard to understand, because it goes against the flesh. You know what makes more sense, if I'm being completely real with y'all? Eye for eye and tooth for tooth makes a lot more sense. And that's because forgiveness is paradoxical. Honestly, it's almost nonsensical. It almost borders on insanity. It defies logic and it appears to go against justice. But here's the thing. When you look at this stronghold of unforgiveness, you can kind of start to unpack it and see what's really holding it together, okay? And the first thing is pride, okay? Because we feel that if we forgive, it means that the offender is getting away with it, right? So we start to think that forgiveness makes us weak. The second thing is pain. We feel that if we forgive, it means that we invalidate the pain and the anger that we feel towards the offender. The third thing is fear, because we start to think that if we forgive, it means that there must be some kind of reconciliation. And the fourth reason why it's so hard is because it's really a flesh versus spirit. The flesh demands justice, it demands payback, it demands retribution. It even demands the suffering of the person that hurt you, right? But the spirit calls us to surrender to God and trust in his divine justice. I want to take a moment to talk about the divinity of forgiveness. Because if it has spiritual power, where does forgiveness come from? Because forgiveness is miraculous. Think about who taught you this concept of forgiveness. Maybe your parents did, maybe your school did, maybe your friend. Let's kind of take a step back. When did you learn this concept of forgiveness? Was it through a TV show, kids show? Where did that come from? And then the person or the show, whatever, that taught you this, where did they get that from? And you can almost start to, it's almost like, what came first, the chicken or the egg kind of thing. But it's kind of like, where did forgiveness come from? Who invented it? And here's the thing, it's not of human origin. It's an inheritance. It's a gift that we have been granted by God the Father. See, forgiveness originates from God himself. It's not human invention. It's part of his nature. Something revealed, not created. Exodus 34:6-7. The Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness, maintaining love to thousands and forgiving wickedness, rebellion, and sin. Psalm 103:12. As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions from us. 1 John 4:19. We love because he first loved us. So by extension, we forgive because he first forgave us. Think about this, guys. You only know of this concept, this philosophical concept of forgiveness, because don't get me wrong, forgiveness is a philosophical, complicated math equation. Okay, forgiveness is something that philosophers have been debating for like centuries. That's how radical this notion is. But with that being said, just think about all the times that you have forgiven or you have been forgiven by somebody. That is literally the Spirit of God flowing through us, and it's only possible because the teaching, the gift of forgiveness has been passed down for thousands and thousands of generations. Like, just think about how insane that is. That's the inheritance. That's why it's our duty to keep passing this gift. You understand how like mind-blowing this is? This divine revelation, like, if we just think about it, if forgiveness did not exist, this world would be chaos. You would have butchered your mom, your siblings, your dad for what they've done to you if this concept did not exist. It's because of forgiveness that lives are preserved. Why life can keep going. You know what I'm saying? Like, nigga, the answer lies in forgiveness. That's why Jesus preached it like 700 times in his ministry. It's just so beautiful. God is so beautiful. Okay, but like, think about this, bro. You wouldn't even be alive if it weren't for forgiveness. Someone in your family line, someone in your bloodline would have been stoned to death over something. Like, if the concept did not exist, everybody would be stoning each other to death for everything. There would be payback for everything. But it's because of forgiveness that we are spared, that our bloodline has been spared, that you are alive. It's because of forgiveness that you can be redeemed, nigga. Like, this is real nigga shit, bro. Like, once you realize, like, the revelation of forgiveness, you can't see the world the same, nigga. Imagine if every day you had to pay for all your tiny little transgressions. If you had to pay for looking lustfully at a woman. Imagine if this world was just justice run. Just pure justice. No forgiveness, no mercy, no grace. You'd be paying back. You'd be burning in hell right now. Just think about this. If you just lust after a woman in your head, immediately God would just punish you because there's no forgiveness. You accidentally run over an old lady. Okay, maybe that's a little cruel. Let me think of an example. Like, I don't know, imagine you accidentally burn someone. You drop a hot pot of water. You'd have to pay for it. You would be getting another pot of water thrown on your head. If this concept did not exist, everything would be paid for. You would have to pay for every tiny transgression. But when someone says, you know what? I forgive you, it's okay, that was an accident. Even in those little moments, guys, those little interactions that you have with people, and they forgive you, the little dumb things that you do, like, that's the Spirit of God working. Once the gravity of forgiveness hits you, you become a real nigga, bro. You become a real nigga. I would not even be alive, bro. If I had to pay back for every transgression I've ever done, I would not be alive. Like, there are things that I've done that hurt people, that have brought people down. I've introduced people to drugs when I was doing drugs. You know what I'm saying? Like, I should be burning in hell for that, but it's because of the grace of God that I can still be redeemed, that I can be washed clean. And that's the sacrifice of Jesus Christ, y'all. That's why we have him. That's why he died for our sins. He was the ultimate sacrifice, but we don't appreciate it. All right, I'm gonna chill out. Okay, forgiveness is not something that human beings invented, is my point. Okay, we didn't invent this to keep society running smoothly. It's a divine attribute that humans are invited to imitate so that we can be more like God, so that we can be more holy like our God. Jesus commands us to forgive not because it's socially convenient, but because forgiveness reflects the very character of our God. Be merciful, just as your Father is merciful. Luke 6:36. Here's a quote I really like from C.S. Lewis. To be Christian means to forgive the inexcusable, because God forgave the inexcusable in you. Here's my point. Forgiveness is a gift that comes from the above, and we didn't earn it. We don't deserve this. It's just divine grace. It's a gift that we have been given, and we're expected to pass on this inheritance. Forgiveness is a superpower because it can destroy strongholds. It can cause it to come crashing down. It releases you from a spirit of torment. It releases you from a spirit of bitterness. Okay, because we're going to get into the cost of unforgiveness. It's a heavy, heavy price to pay, and you're better off forgiving. I'll read you this quote from this Christian author and theologian. His name is Lewis Smedes. Forgiving what we cannot forget creates a new way to remember. We change the memory of our past into a hope to our future. Here's another quote from the same guy. Forgiveness is the only remedy for pain you didn't have coming and pain you can't get rid of. So what can we learn from this? Forgiveness doesn't erase what happened. It's more like we're able to reinterpret what happened so that we can create a different outcome. I'll share with you guys a personal story. There was one person in particular from my past that I just cannot forgive. I had so much anger, sadness. I had so much pain. Basically, it was an ex of mine that really profoundly hurt me, lied to me a lot, betrayed me, blindsided me. I found out a bunch of disturbing things about this person. I felt completely discarded. I was with this person for 5 years, and it was just a very traumatic relationship. And I just could not forgive the guy. I had nothing but anger, hate, and see that internal condition that I had was manifesting in my flesh and how I conducted myself in the public square. It made me more susceptible to slander. It made me more susceptible to vile talk about men. So I would say things and then curse other men because I had this unforgiveness that I couldn't let go of. And I really was tormented a lot. I kept replaying the memories, the trauma, just over and over replaying, why did this happen? Why would this person do this to me? Why would this person do this to me? Did I not deserve honesty? Why wasn't I good enough? Just all these questions that were just tormenting me all the time. And then finally I had a moment. It was a long journey. I had prayed so much for it because I had a really hard time forgiving, and I had always been somebody who holds on to grudges. I was always an eye for eye, tooth for tooth type of person. So the concept of forgiving was very hard for me to digest. And all the time I prayed, I'm like, God, please help me forgive. Give me new eyes to see this person differently because I'm really struggling here. And the Lord really heard my prayers because he led me to this film called The Shack. Now, The Shack is this Christian film. I highly recommend if you're struggling with forgiveness, if you're having a hard time picturing in your brain this concept and the magnitude of it, I highly recommend this film. This film completely changed my life. The way that forgiveness was presented in this film with such creativity and depth and analogies, and it just brought it to life in a way that it just clicked. And I just remember bawling my eyes out because I understood the gravity of the grace that I have been given. And in that moment, I was like, I can no longer carry bitterness towards this ex. Like, I can't. I couldn't. And I was just able to just forgive this person fully. And when I just released that and I surrendered it to God, I'm like, you know what, God, like, I'm tired. I'm so drained. You can have this. Do whatever you want, but I will not curse him. I choose to bless him and I forgive him. And I was released from that spirit of torment and I finally had peace. Now, like I said, I still had pain. There were still painful memories, but it didn't control me anymore. And I also began to see him in different eyes because as you mature in your Christian walk, you no longer take things so personal when someone causes some kind of transgression towards you, because remember, our battle is not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces in the unseen realm. So I was able to, I won't get too much into like what this ex was struggling with, but it impacted a lot how our relationship just completely collapsed. But instead I started seeing him in new eyes, like, wow, you know what, this person is so broken and has so much bondage that he may not even be aware of that he's in. Maybe he is aware of it, but he's clearly struggling, and I don't wish him bad. I just wish that, like, I just chose to bless him. Like, I started praying for him, like, hey, you know what, Father God, I pray that he finds you, that he's able to be released from his bondage and from his addictions, and that he can move forward with his life. I just saw him as like a brother in Christ. I couldn't be angry anymore. I couldn't take it personal anymore. You know what I'm saying? My point of sharing this story is that forgiving this person allowed me to transform my relationship to that memory. So instead of letting it, why did this happen? This like, why wasn't I good enough? Now it's like, wow, I bless you, brother. I bless you, and I hope you find the right path. I hope that you find Jesus someday. And I'm gonna keep working on my walk. It just, that's the power of forgiveness, y'all. And not only does God command us to forgive because he forgives our transgressions, so then we are called to forgive the transgressions of other people, but I believe that God asks us to forgive because he's also trying to protect us, because the cost of unforgiveness is great. And it's not just your spirit that starts breaking down, it starts breaking down society. So we already talked about earlier, let's just talk about like the individual, right? Because if you're angry, you're bitter, unforgiving, you open up the doors to spirits of torment, resentment, pride, slander, murder. These are all things that can start boiling in within. But it also starts impacting how we speak and how we carry ourselves. If you're constantly angry, bitter, it's going to come out in your tongue. You're going to be cursing more. You might even be cursing other people, cursing other groups of people that may be related to the person that hurt you. I know we all know that one coworker that is just always angry, just brings the vibe down. It is like, when they walk in, you're like, oh God, my day is gonna suck. Like, that's a person that's spiritually sick. And my point is that, like, you start to see how this type of energy starts bringing everyone down. If you cling on to unforgiveness, there are consequences to that, dude. The wounds stay open. It just prevents you don't heal from it because you don't let it, and it breeds cycles of victimhood, hopelessness, helplessness. It starts breaking down your body, okay? Because it starts leading to anxiety, depression, obsessive thoughts of the offense that happened. It leads to insomnia, nightmares, restlessness, contributes to high blood pressure. Your immune system starts to weaken because of this bitterness will eat away at your health. So you may think like forgiving is weak, but you're only killing yourself. Unforgiveness, dude, it's gonna start shaping your personality, okay? Because now you're more cynical. Now you have a hard heart. And you're expecting everyone else to be perfect. Like, you just cannot handle a transgression from someone else without blowing up, without getting offensive, without it triggering the memories of the person that possibly hurt you in the past. Like, it just, your expectations are crazy high. I couldn't think of a word. I was trying to think of like a big word, and I'm like, crazy high. But guys, here's the thing. A nation is a collection of individuals. If unforgiveness is ruling our hearts, then it rules the nation. I wanted to address like many kinds of social groups and stuff, and how like unforgiveness plays a role in these things, but then the video would be too long. Maybe I'll do like an unforgiveness series, like focusing on like different demographics and that how that plays out. I don't know. Are you guys interested? I don't know. But I'm just gonna focus on men and women just so you could kind of get the idea, okay? But here's the thing. Like I said before, men and women, they're always fighting, they're always blaming each other for everything, and it's just like, if we just take a step back, we can see how it all comes from unforgiveness. So let's study each sex right now, okay? So let's go with women first. What do why do we often hear women say all the time about men? And I've heard this so often, it's insane how many times I've heard this. It's like a record player that everyone just keeps parroting. It's drives me a little crazy. But what do women say? Men ain't shit. All men are the same. You can't trust men, they'll always disappoint you. Men just want one thing. I don't need a man. I'll never let a man play me again. I'm gonna focus on my career only. I'm better off alone. I don't want to have his babies. I don't want to have babies. I don't want to be trapped. What's the root of that? Okay, it's betrayal. It's disappointment. Humiliation. Probably a father wound too. This wound from one man or multiple men in her life becomes projected onto all men. So now there's this spirit of bitterness that starts taking over, and it disguises itself as self-empowerment. Really, it's a wall of self-protection built off on pain. What's the fruit of that? It's pride, mistrust, emotional hardness, isolation, cynicism, flings, focusing solely on your careers, attention-seeking behaviors online because you still want the validation from men. You don't want a family anymore. You think that having babies is weak. You think that having a family is weak. Or you may not think it's weak at all, but you might believe that it's just a fairy tale. Like, it's just something you see on TV, or it's something that you specifically cannot obtain. This might work for other women, but it's just not for me. There's a sense of hopelessness there, a loss of faith. I said, these things manifest into the public square. It'll start showing up in the type of advice that you give your friends. So if you're angry at men as a whole, the advice that you give to your female friends is not going to be helpful. And I've seen this happen in many women, and I am so guilty of this myself. Saying things like, just leave him, girl. You can do so much better. Oh, he did that? You need to leave him right now. Like, he's a red flag. Like, cut him off. Screw him, blah blah blah. Like, we just speak nasty things, and I'll give you guys like a personal example. And again, this came from my unforgiveness for my ex. Okay, so I won't get into his business as in to what he was struggling with, an addiction he was struggling with, but I was so angry, so hurt, so bitter that when another woman would tell me that their boyfriend or whatever is struggling with that same addiction, I would immediately be like, oh, he's a piece of shit. What a disgusting scumbag. You should leave him. And like, I would just speak ill things when I don't even know the guy. I don't know him. Why am I speaking poison? Why am I filling my friend's head with poison when I don't even understand her dynamic at all? I'm not saying anything helpful, and that's something I had to repent for. I had another friend that was talking about a guy. This guy had issues with not feeling good enough, so he was self-sabotaging this romance with my friend. Instead of seeing him as somebody that was struggling, that might be dealing with a spirit of rejection, that might need some motivation, some like kind words, some uplifting, because he was giving my friend a lot of mixed signals, but it came from a place of insecurity. Instead of seeing him for who he was, I immediately was like, screw that guy, fuck that guy, just leave him, stop talking to him, cut him off, like you could do so much better. And it all came from that root of unforgiveness, that like anger that I hadn't taken care of. And I ended up like apologizing to her. I was like, hey dude, I should have never said that. I don't even know your guy. Like, why am I giving you this kind of advice? It came from me projecting onto her guy because of my unforgiveness. You know what I'm saying? And this is what I mean. Like these things, it starts affecting the public square. What if she had taken my advice and completely like cut this guy off because I fed her poison? And here's the thing, I'm sure so many guys can relate to this, where you know their girlfriend has that one chick friend that tells them everything, and then that chick friend is like, just leave him, girl, just like, this is so common in female circles. Where do you think this comes from? It's bitterness, it's anger towards men. It's anger towards men, unresolved anger. And if we don't resolve this, we impact our friends, we impact our decisions. We may even start tearing down the idea of getting married and having a family to other female friends because we keep projecting our inner poison outwardly. Now let's talk about men. What do men typically say that I hear all the time? Women are all crazy. You can't make women happy. She's just like all the others. Modern women are so entitled. I'll never trust a woman again. I'm getting a prenup. All women want is money and attention. Marriage is a trap. But what's the root of that, guys? It's rejection, emasculation. It comes from a place of constantly being accused by women. It comes from shame, betrayal. It could also be a father figure. A father wound, a mother wound. Now he has a hard heart. He looks down on women. He starts to see them as sexual objects, and that's the fruit of it, guys. The fruit is bitterness, misogyny. Like actual misogyny, not like the dumb things that like women say it's misogyny. Actual misogyny. Emotional detachment, porn addiction, because now they're replacing intimacy, true intimacy and love, with something virtual. They're more likely to cheat because they don't respect what's sacred. And they also will start giving terrible advice to other men. Oh, just leave her, bro. Oh, she's crazy. She's crazy. I hear this all the time from men. I'm not speaking for all men, but I hear this so often from men telling other guys, she's crazy. Oh, she's crazy. You ever like get with another guy and they start talking ill about their ex? Oh, she's crazy. She's crazy. Just cheat on her, bro. Like, it's just like, I hear like just nonsensical things from both genders. Here's what both sexes have in common. They have the same root. It's unforgiveness. It's pride. A hard heart. And all this bitterness just invites demonic influence to continue feeding into this division between men and women. And this has societal complications. This has complications into our nation. This impacts the amount of marriages there are. This impacts divorce rates. This impacts people's desire to have a family or not. Like, so many people don't want to get married. They just want to have polygamy and sex, and they don't trust each other. Like, guys, if we can just examine where it comes from, if we can just let forgiveness cut through all that, if we can just build something different, if we can just walk into revival, if we can just have conversations with one another, things would be so much more different. So this is why it's so important to forgive. You have to forgive the men and the women that have hurt you, whether it's an ex-partner, maybe it's the father that left you, that never cared for you, maybe it's the mother that left you, I don't know, but you have to bless them in order to move forward. This is why we have extreme forms of feminism. This is why we have abortion. This is why we have the red pill movement with men. This is why the rates of witchcraft are going. Like, you ever see women like, oh, let me set a curse on this guy because he hurt me, or let me do some tarot like, You guys understand how unforgiveness is a domino effect. It's just that one sin alone creates a whole cascade of like other sins that you start indulging in. And then here's the thing, unforgiveness blinds us because we can no longer see what's sacred, right? We can't see what's sacred. I couldn't look at what was sacred and beautiful about men, the potential of men, the possible revival of men, because I was blinded by my anger, by my resentment and my bitterness and my unforgiveness. I kept looking down at them. I kept speaking curses over them. And I keep feeding poison onto other females because of my internal struggle. This is why forgiveness is so powerful, because it cuts through all that blindness. It cuts through the darkness. Forgiveness allows me to see the sacredness of men. It allows me to see their potential, their beauty, their strengths, their, like, you're just able to see them in a different light. Why? Because now you're embodying the character of God. If you want to understand, if you want to know how God sees you and other people, it's by embodying his character. If you want to remove the spiritual cataracts of your eyes, you have to embody his character. You have to embody then forgiveness in order to see the world differently. And if you could see the world differently, we can start implementing entirely new and revolutionary solutions for the revival and the healing of our country. See, when we're not blinded by all this darkness, now we can start talking. Now we can have conversations. Now we can start coming up with solutions. Because more than anything, I want to see men and women have families again, get married. I want divorce rates to plummet. But until we address this war, this division, this competition between men and women, we can't win. And that's why I say God is inviting us to forgiveness. So if you want to make America great again, you must forgive. Forgiveness is a civic duty at this point. If we want national restoration, it starts with personal obedience. So if you're wondering why that speech of Erika Kirk touched you, it's because we saw the character of God in that moment. That's why it pulled you in. So I want us to take inventory of our heart. Who are we angry with? Who are we still holding bitterness against? Is it a parent? Is it an old friend? Is it an ex? Is it a group of people? Yourself even? God? So if there's anything that you can get from this episode, is take this also as an invitation. I want us all to take a look inside our hearts and every little crevice where some unforgiveness or bitterness may be hiding in. Any kind of buried pain that's just hiding somewhere deep inside you. And I want you to just reflect on that and release it. Give it to God. I invite you to release them right now. I want us to renounce all spirits of bitterness, of anger, of slander, of torment, and pride. And let's allow the Lord, let's go into the secret place and pray. And let the Lord soften up our hearts again. And let's forgive because God first forgave us. And let's embody forgiveness so that we can heal from within, so that we can heal our families, our communities, and ultimately our country. And that's it for today, guys. I hope you guys are having a wonderful October. And I really hope you guys really take inventory of your heart. Like, I'm being dead serious. This is a civic duty at this point. But I hope everybody has a fantastic week. Please drop a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know your struggle with forgiveness. What's that road been like? And were you touched by Erika's speech? How did that make you feel? Did you feel that invitation from the Holy Spirit? Like, tell me all about it. I want to hear all about it. So thank you guys so much. You guys have a fantastic day.